Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
I'm Christopher
This is
Vernoff.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner.
And our guest judge. Phil, introduce yourself.
This is Philip John Green.
And now, the Break It Down Show with Jon Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
So Phil Green is our guest judge today, and we have an album fight. Today's matchup shows us closing the 70s with epic drama rockers. In the blue corner, Queen with The Game, which was their only album to reach number one in the U.S., largely on the back of the overwhelming popularity of Another One Bites the Dust. It faces off against the dawn of a new decade. In the red corner, new wave band Squeeze with their album Cool for Cats. It's anthem rock versus new wave, Wembley Stadium versus CBGB. Let's see how it shakes out. But first, here's Richard Lackey with his pre-fight analysis. Hey, Richard.
Good evening, gentlemen. Tonight's fight is a battle between two London bands with totally different styles, and like they say, styles make fights. We start with 1980's The Game by Queen. It's their 8th studio album. And oddly enough, Queen's only 2 number 1 singles in the U.S. came off this album. Another One Bites the Dust and Crazy Little Thing Called Love. It did spend time as the number 1 album on the Billboard 200. And also, surprisingly, I just found this little factoid interesting. This was the first Queen album to use synthesizers. I didn't believe it. I went back and looked through for the 7 previous albums. And outside of piano, harpsichord, and organ, they'd never used synthesizers before, so go figure. This also marked kind of a new direction for the band, incorporating funk and disco and some rockabilly under the tutelage of new producer Reinhold Mack, and they recorded it in Munich, Germany, which was a little bit different for them. This is going up against Squeeze's Cool for Cats, their 1979 album. This was only the second album from the London band Squeeze. Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook were getting heralded by the London press in the 70s and 80s as maybe being the next McCartney and Lennon. Hold your roll there, London press. Not quite, but they're very, very good. This album produced 4 UK singles, and Cool for Cats and Up the Junction, reaching as high as number 2 on the UK charts. There's not really a lot about this album, especially in regards to US record sales. To be honest with you, in the 80s, they were kind of a college band. You didn't really discover them until you were in college. But let me just say this. Do not sleep on Squeeze. Difford and Tilbrook are great songwriters. It's very easy to have this gut reaction to this fight and assume it's going to be a blowout. If you look at it, this is kind of an experimental album for Queen. And while we all love Queen, and I do, best frontman ever, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, blah, 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 all that stuff, they are what I'd consider a greatest hits band, and not really an album band. And I know people are going to hate me, especially you diehard fans, but they're one of those bands that on their albums, the kind of filler songs are pretty hit and miss. Sometimes it can be kind of weird combinations of show tunes and rock, and sometimes it can be just anthem after anthem after anthem. And to be honest, it's just, to me, they're a little bit inconsistent. Now, you buy the greatest hits and you think they're the best band that ever lived. And they are worthy of all the acclaim. I'm just saying, don't sleep on Squeeze on this one. I'm going to call this 6 rounds to 4. I think there's probably going to be a split decision, and depending on who the guest judge is, I'm going to guess Queen's going to end up winning this anyway, but I wouldn't rule out an upset. Back to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Richard. What do you say, Pete?
Well, like you said, this is an epic fight because you've got 2 bands that have done incredible things. Difford and Tilbrook, we're going to hear about them a lot. Queen is overappreciated. It's not a knock on anything they've done. They don't always get it right, but they are beloved, partly because of Freddie Mercury. And then you have Squeeze, which is likely underappreciated. I don't want to say underrated or overrated because I don't think that works in this case, but that's how I see these bands. Is they're both world-class bands that can go out and play a greatest hit show and everyone's going to love it, but a lot of the rest of their catalogs is not incredible.
Phil?
Well, I grew up listening to both these in the early 80s. Both of them play different, they have different roles in my upbringing that really have special places in my heart. So whereas The Game from Queen, and really it was less the album that I grew up with, and we were so lazy we actually listened to this on vinyl. we never turned it over. So side one of this is family to me. Side two is like a third cousin that I've never met before. And it's interesting how that worked back in the album days. But back in fifth grade or fourth grade or whenever, I was listening to this on a regular basis, we were playing Dungeons and Dragons or something else, and Queen was going in the background playing. You just start it over. You don't flip the side. So that's kind of where that album had a place in my heart. But Squeeze, so interesting thing about Squeeze for me is Squeeze and the wacky lyrics that bands like Squeeze deliver. That's always been a foundation for me growing up. And Squeeze was one of those bands that, if I felt a little bit down for some reason, I just play Squeeze and I'm immediately uplifted by the really lightheartedness and generally happy tones and lyrics of Squeeze. And it just, for me, it was this band, and not even particularly just Cool for Cats, but Squeeze in general is the kind of music that I strive and look for, because it is that music that helps, provide me with that light or the happiness that I look for music to provide. So I typically don't listen to music that is down and kind of solemn. And, if you ever looked at my library, it's, Squeeze, Oingo Boingo, things like that are just wacky. They might be giants, things that make me laugh and smile. And I think it all started with Squeeze back in the day.
I want to say this, too, about Phil. He's got his own new podcast coming out called What's in Store. And it's going to talk. Well, Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing with that?
The What's in Store podcast it really ties to my day job. My day job, I help brands and retailers better connect with consumers in both online retail environments, e-tail, and physical stores. And really, the podcast What's in Store is a vehicle for me to help disseminate education and inform people in my industry about what's going on, what trends they should be keeping their eye out for, what retailers are doing it right. And I'm going to be bringing on guests that specialize in whether it's technology, retail. I'll bring on retailers that, I think are doing it right, both in the physical stores as well as omni-channel. And it's really a very narrow, focused topic that is going to be, I'm delivering a message to a very specific audience that is ultimately the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis.
Of which there are about 10,000 who can use that content.
I want to say one more thing before we kick off, too. This is one of the happy accidents from doing these album fights, John. We are about to record the most recent and also the most comprehensive, definitive breakdown of either of these albums. There's been a lot written about Queen in general and a lot about the Queen album in sort of kind of a way, but there's not a lot of depth. And for sure, Squeeze, we are going to be the top of the pyramid. I never realized this was going to be a thing with this, but it's absolutely going to be true. We're about to change how the world sees Cool for Cats and the game.
Okay.
Well, and possibly Squeeze in general, right? So Squeeze, most people that I run into have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about Squeeze. And I explained that I saw Squeeze out in Cape Cod back in the mid-'90s. And
you guys say Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Era. I had a Nantucket out in Cape Cod.
That was my first opportunity to see them touring in the U.S., and I jumped on it. It was fantastic. But then I tell people, oh yeah, I saw Squeeze and Squeeze this, Squeeze that, and I have no idea what you're talking about. And then I have to go find Tempted or Pulling Muscles from a Shell or something like that. And they're like, oh yeah, I've heard that song. People just don't make that connection. And to your point on the intro, did you say they were underappreciated?
Yeah.
And I think once people really realize what they delivered, this exercise just, I guess, reaffirmed for me that they should be more appreciated.
Let's start with round one. Play the game versus slap and tickle. Phil, kick us off.
As much as I, had nice things to say about Squeeze, this is, for me, Play the Game was a fantastic song by Queen. Love Slap and Tickle. I love the fun, the frivolity around that, but it was just, let's go to my notes. The piano and the vocals and the harmonies that Queen was delivering in this particular track were fantastic. The drums played their part. I call them gear shifts. So throughout the song, as they shifted. It was just fantastic. The techno in Slap and Tickle kind of, I like songs that I can listen to them that maybe were 20 years older, listen today, and have no idea that they were written 30 years ago. So this one I felt was super dated. Loved the lyrics. My favorite lyric out of Slap and Tickle, never chew a pickle. I'll leave it at that. I had this one for Play the Game 10, Slap and Tickle 9.
What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, this is an ugly round for me to start out. This is a feeling it out kind of round. So I love, look, Slap and Tickle, too many words, right? That's one of the knocks against Squeeze. It's a little too 80s. It's a little too frantic. All of those early 80s, that kind of pace setting that the keyboards creates, I don't think that holds up well. And in this case, in our goofy scenario, it doesn't stand up well. However, the chorus in this song, the chorus is great. For the song being too long, the groove in that chorus, give me that and shorten the rest of the song. I think you've got a decent but better song, even if it is dated. So that part for me really works. On the other side, we have Play the Game, and of course, this is Freddie being Freddie. He can take a mediocre song and elevate it because of his voice. So he's out there, he's lifting this song up, but this is a Beatles song. I mean, like, not literally, but figuratively, a Beatles song. And so it's like, it's predictable. I already know kind of what's coming up. And I'm a little disappointed that both of these bands kind of started so weakly. And I don't know what went into their album structure thought, but neither of these songs is great. Neither of them are playing to the band's strengths. So in this case, I'll go with the groove from the chorus and Slap and Tickle. In just what's an ugly round and not a whole lot of great things stand out. I'll squeeze 10-9 for me.
Yeah, I didn't really particularly care for this round either. For an opening album cut, Play the Game just failed to draw me in. The harmonies are nice, and Freddie Mercury's Freddie Mercury. So you summed it up, Pete. Few bands do that as well as Queen. I'm not into Roger Taylor's drumming, though, and the comparison that you made, Phil, about the drums doing their part, that's all they did was their part. And I'm not into Roger Taylor all that much. Gilson Lavis, on the other hand, he does some nice things on Slap and Tickle. There's some syncopation that's cool. He's 4 on the floor in the choruses, which I like. I didn't like the AABB rhyme scheme, but it is a slightly better opening track for 2 tracks that aren't great. I went 10-9 squeeze. Round 2 is Dragon Attack versus Review and Touching Me, Touching You. Pete, kick us off.
Any song that's called Dragon Attack, I think, is already off to a good start. Brian May, of course, can write great lyrics. He's done so here. I think this is a fun song. What I think, for me, makes this song stand out and for me takes the round for Queen is Roger Taylor and John Deacon. The rhythm section gets the show off, and they deliver. If those two guys can get the groove together, the song is going to really be strong because Freddie and Brian are going to deliver no matter what. For me, right around 2:20, the song changes tempo. It's like a weird edit mistake was in there or something like that. But bottom line is that this is just a solid rock and roll song. Could it be a little shorter? Sure. But I don't have any problem with what's there. The mashup of Review and Touching Me, Touching You is all right. The biggest thing that loses this round for me for Squeeze is the Divinals really put the touching yourself thing out into the atmosphere and way far away from what this is. This isn't a song that anybody on tour is ever going to play. The other thing is there is a lot of Beatles in this song as well, and this keeps happening, like where these two bands are both doing similar things, but they're also albums from similar eras. But you can tell a lot of the Beatles influence even on this new wave album. For me, this is Queen 10-9.
I like the bluesy opening of Dragon Attack. The guitar parts are cool. It's a song for Freddie Mercury to strut to. Review, sort of disjointed, but not any more disjointed than that break that you mentioned in Dragon Attack. I don't like the resolves in the verse of Review, but I do like the arrangement, and the drum part is interesting. Touching Me, Touching You is almost surf rocky, and I like it better. Harmonizing guitar solo is cool. I dug that a lot. The honky-tonk piano's nice. Also, it's a song about thinking of your lady when you beat your junk, which I do both of those things often. So Divinals or not, I went with Squeeze 10-9. Phil?
Well, going back to Dungeons and Dragons, Dragon Attack was our theme song, essentially, as we were fighting those dragons. Catchy bass hook. My notes had guitar showcase. And it really felt like May was really showing off in this particular song, just wanted to show his chops. I was a little confused on what this song actually means. Got a dragon on my back, so is this a kung fu master? Is this his gi that has a dragon on it? Don't know, don't care. I liked it. I had Dragon Attack 10 over this combo review, Touching Me, Touching You, 10-9. The review was the synthesizer, again, dated. The lyrics were not good. Touching Me, Touching You, I did enjoy the high energy, the freneticness of this particular song. Interesting drums, guitar, but it just was no match for the Dragon's fire.
Okay. Round 3 is Another One Bites the Dust versus It's Not Cricket.
Oh boy.
Tassels on her what's its. Coolest line. I don't like the chimes. They are annoying to me. Another One Bites the Dust is an absolute giant, and you're not going to bring it down with a bouncy little ditty like Cricket. 10-9 Queen, that quick. Pete?
I agree with you. And I wrote my note about That's Not Cricket is it's not even a deep cut. Like, this is just not a great song. Look, there's some cuteness and some cleverness. There's a little punk rock. There's a little new wave. There's a, kind of a McCartney-esque kind of funness to this. And Tilbrook's ability to sing with the accent is always solid as he pulls the lyrics and everything in together. But this is done way better in other songs on this album. This does show off what they can do. They just don't do it well. And then you're talking about one of those songs that is epic, and Queen has that one, and Another One Bites the Dust.
Epic.
The guitars, the claps, all that stuff that happens in this song. For me, this is a serious problem for Squeeze. I've got this 10-7. I have Squeeze flat on their back, people waving their arms around him, and they get up just barely at 9. That's how hard this is a difference
Holy
for me.
cow. Phil, did you bust out the smelling salts?
Ouch. Close. I had this 10-8 for the Another One Bites the Dust. Just the iconic bass riff for this song. All of my kids know this song, and I have kids that are 16, 14, 10, and 7. My 7-year-old knows this song. She doesn't know what tassels are, but that's another story.
Hey, that's solid parenting, by the way.
Exactly. It's Not Cricket, it's wacky. I like wacky, but wacky cannot compete against Another One Bites the Dust. I did have one question, though. Who is Steve?
Steve.
They reference Steve in Another One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
I want to meet Steve.
Yeah. Wherever you are, Steve, tweet at the Break It Down show.
Another One Bites the Dust. So simple, yet so perfect.
Well said. Keep us going. Round 4 is Need Your Lovin' Tonight versus It's So Dirty. What do you say?
Need Your Lovin' Tonight. I'm listening to this song. I'm going, is this Queen or Squeeze? Like, this could easily be a Squeeze song. Nice guitar intro, but it just wasn't one of Freddie's best songs vocally. Whereas It's So Dirty, now this is what I'm talking about. You can feel that Kinks, you can feel that punk influence. It's fun, energetic. The guitar, the mix of the guitar, organ, drums, Jules chiming in, beautiful. I had it 10-9. It's So Dirty.
Pete.
Yeah, my note is, I like Brian's guitar again. And listen, Brian May is fantastic. But one of the things I've learned from doing these album fights is I don't want your virtuosity constantly on display. And I think Brian gets guilty of that sometimes, showing off a little bit. So it's nice to hear what he can do. But, the songs, it's just okay. And like you said, Phil, this sounds like a Squeeze song, except for the lyrics aren't that great. I mean, really,
right.
I don't believe Freddie in this song. He doesn't sell it. There's a good rock bass to it, but honestly, I expect more from Queen. That's the God's honest truth. It's So Dirty, you can hear that Elvis Costello influence. All of these guys get together and drink and talk about writing songs, and they finally, this is one of the problems with Squeeze, is they don't let Jules loose often enough on this album. He finally has some space to work with. The lyric is a little better than the last song. The guitar, actually kind of funny, I think the guitar here from Tilbrook sounds better than what May delivers. So this is when I started thinking, wow, actually, Glenn Tilbrook can really play the guitar well. And I got lost on a whole conversation there. Of these two songs, Squeeze is a little better. I can't fault anybody for thinking Queen had a better round here, but for me, it's Squeeze 10-9.
Oh, man. I hate going last. This might be my favorite round in the fight because of the similarities. I think both of these songs have a great 50s feel in the songwriting, which, of course, was kind of what Squeeze kind of brought to New Wave. It's So Dirty. Like you said, Pete, that organ part is great. It really transports you. The lyrics are catchy. With just a little brandy and some Chinese food, I get pretty dirty myself. The thing is, Ooh, I Need Your Lovin' has a beautiful chorus. And, okay, it was clearly lifted from 8 Days a Week. But again, strong harmonies, great breaks, great turnarounds, and the ending is terrific. The sound's a little dated, but between the two songs, I think it's aged a little better. So I went 10-9 loving. Round 5. Crazy Little Thing Called Love versus the Knack. Phil?
This Queen can punch, and Crazy Little Thing Called Love hit the Knack pretty hard, knocked them to the mat on this one. The acoustic intro and this song, I love this song. I don't know what to tell you. I got a crazy little love for this song. Like, you can be by yourself in a room, listen to this, you start clapping too. I definitely heard Elvis in this song. There is some Memphis in Crazy Little Thing Called Love. And the Knack, I mean, it just got hit hard right on the chin and didn't know what was coming. Xylophone, great, loved it, but it just couldn't handle Crazy Little Thing Called Love. 10-8.
Wow. Pete?
If we're going to start with Crazy Little Thing Called Love, written in 10 minutes. Sometimes the song just arrives, and at the Bayer Rischerhof Hotel in Bern in München, that's a hotel I stayed at. I didn't realize I shared that history with Freddie Mercury. So it's already off to a good start, and I love Munich. So good things are about to happen. What a surprise. I mean, you have this British gay guy with the penchant for wearing fishnet tank tops, and he writes this cool rockabilly song. Like, I didn't expect that. The thing is it isn't great. It's excellent, but not great, if I can draw a difference there. Brian Setzer sings it probably better. Dwight Yoakam probably delivers it better because it's more close to their sweet spot. For a British band, not bad and good, and not a 10-8 round for me. But those other guys, they don't quite steal the song from Queen, but this song is definitely stealable for someone who is closer to the genre. The Knack, it's just so close to being a really good song, and actually oddly reminiscent to me for Another One Bites the Dust lyrically. This song, and there's a great lyric in there talking about a Guinness and a waffle, and if you've ever had Guinness in your waffle mix, you'll know that not only is that lyric clever, it's also delicious. I like those kind of things. It's a shame that this song just doesn't shine. It's really close, but it's also super dated. Great guitar again from Tilbrook. I love how he plays, and Lavis and the bass are awesome in this. I love when the rhythm section works out, and it turns out I like this song a lot. It's just not quite there. 10-9 Queen.
Pete doesn't know what he's talking about. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Gilson Lavis and those tom fills. That is greatness. Nice influence for a young drummer who's learning his way around the drum set with his rudiments. To be able to have somebody like Gilson Lavis demonstrate working your way around the drum set on a song like this, his feel is so good. But that's the only thing that saved this from being a 10-9, from being a 10-8 round for me. Crazy Little Thing Called Love is timeless. It could have been recorded yesterday. It's my favorite Queen song by about a mile, and one of my favorite songs by anyone for anything. So there aren't many songs that are going to beat it, even songs played by Gilson Lavis. In spite of the fact that I said Pete doesn't know what he's talking about. Same score, 10-9 Queen. Round 6, Rocket, Prime Drive versus Hop, Skip, and Jump. Here's another nice natural matchup between these two albums. Freddie Mercury in the intro just flexes his superiority as a singer. And let's face it, he is superior. If this fight was just a battle of singers, Mercury has the pipes to dominate practically anybody. But this is a whole band fight, and Rocket is a bit disjointed after that. Hop, Skip, and Jump sounds like one of those songs that came together in rehearsal and the arrangement was done when they went through it twice. That may have been how Crazy Little Thing Called Love was written. Sometimes the magic happens. Hop, Skip, and Jump might be my favorite Squeeze song. I went 10-9 Hop, Skip, and Jump. Phil?
Wow. After that build-up for Rocket, and you said Rocket might be your favorite. Well, I was like, what? Yeah, I agree with you. The Freddie intro was beautiful on Rocket. Just, it was setting me up. I'm like, wow, this is such a beautiful song. And then, I don't know, somewhere 1/3 of the way through the song, all of a sudden, I had to check, did I go to another track? What happened? This song just turned for the worst. And when it turned into a Meatloaf song. That's what it sounded like to me. It just went full on Meatloaf, and the synthesizers that jumped in were just, I was like, this is disjointed for this song. This song started out so beautifully, it just, it fell flat on its face for me. Hop, skip, and jump, wow. The energy that was delivered, just frenetic. My punk roots appreciate this song. In fact, it probably helped form my punk roots. The drums were amazing. As I was listening to the song, I was like, I could see Queen doing this song. I felt like this was a Queen song that Squeeze was delivering, and it was fantastic. Jules Holland, the keyboards in this particular song, they were solid. I had it 10-9, hop, skip, and jump.
Wow. Pete?
For me, Rocket is, sometimes being great means you try shit. Sometimes you ought to not have done that. I was hanging with the song, and here's what I've got to say right now. Queen's lyrics, regardless of who's writing them, are not better than Difford's. He is better at this than they are, and we're talking at the highest level, so let's understand that. But Difford can outwrite the other three guys combined. They don't make good choices here. The choices that aren't going to elevate this song. They're really more of a groove band, and when they find that groove, they're legendary. But no one is stoked when they pick this song to play it at a Queen show. Rocking things in space? Come on. It's neat, it's funny, but it's pedestrian. The experiments are showing their age. And here we are deep in the album, and I see trouble ahead for Queen because I don't think they can outperform Difford with the words. Hop, skip, and jump. This is Jules. He's finally allowed to go out and stretch his legs. It's a Devo-style rocker, and in so many ways, this mirrors what Queen does. And I love that Squeeze can kind of bounce between these genres and stylistically hold up. And this is kind of like a crazy little thing called love for me. Like very similar in the approach to the song. And in this case, Squeeze is just doing a little bit more. So, again, it's close, but Tilbrook sings and shreds as well as anybody else. And I got to be honest, I really think Squeeze is better here. And I've got this 10-9, and I'll put that on the back of Jules Holland because he's incredible.
I like the phrase, you should have not have done that. Keep it going. Round 7, Don't Try Suicide versus Up the Junction. What do you say?
Well, we'll start with Don't Try Suicide. I have a lot of notes for Up the Junction, so we'll spend most of our time there. If you're going to write a song about suicide, Stuck in a Moment by U2 is clearly the standard. When Queen goes out and does something, sometimes it just doesn't work. And this is that second side of the album that's just not working. This is a band fight. This goes round by round. This isn't anything to do with legendary status. This is round 7. And Up the Junction craters Don't Try Suicide. Look, what these guys do here with the lyrics and what happens in 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Meets a girl, they date, they fall in love, they have sex, she gets pregnant. He saves $10 a week to take care of this kid. They start taking baths. They have a baby. The baby turns 3 years old. The baby walks. He gets dumped. He pines for his girl. He realizes he's a fuck-up. All of that in 2 minutes and 27 seconds. And here's the thing I love most about this song, you guys, is that they tell this story, and I'm on the bar stool with Difford as he tells me about his life, and I'm just like, this is a story in a bar that he's telling me, and Tilbrook delivers the words, and I love it. And this right here is Squeeze for me, throwing a body shot that folds up those soft ribs on Queen, and there's real trouble ahead. This is blood spitting out kind of damage where they've got to take a knee and they get that standing 8 because there's real problems ahead. One thing that I would like, there's a point in the song where they kind of change tempo, and I really want like a diminished 7th chord to really sell like the darker nature of the latter part of the song where he's a fuck up. They didn't give me that, and that's what keeps it from being perfect. Other than that, this is 10-8 Squeeze for me.
I think that what you said right there, Pete, that diminished 7th chord, yeah, that would have sold the darkness. The darkness, the first time you listen to this song, the darkness kind of takes you by surprise, and I think there's a little bit of magic in that. Up the Junction, first of all. It takes all damn song to get to the words Up the Junction. It's hopeful, it's pragmatic, it's sweet, it's tender, and then it's heartbreaking. It's familiar and tragic, and it's brilliant, and it's humanity. And I'm with you. I mean, he took us on a journey in 2.5 minutes, and that was truly brilliant. Don't Try Suicide. I do appreciate the message, and that's the only reason it was a 10-9 for me. I gave it a 9 just because the message, but the way they did it is just weird. And you mentioned U2, Pete, in this case, what they did was they approached it with humor. It's funny, but that's not funny. And it's worth mentioning. You mentioned YouTube, Pete. I'm mentioning the Logic song 1-800-273-8255 because it's something that deserves a listen, and it saved a lot of young lives. So for our audience out there that's not familiar with that song or with Logic the rapper, I want to give him a shout out because that was his brilliant song about suicide. Phil.
Up the Junction, iconic and fantastic. Pete, it's incredible. So Difford, as a lyricist by training, he's a poet. This song is him as he sees life around him, and it's a poem that Tilbrook was able to attach a fantastic melody to. The intro, it's iconic. The story's beautiful. I love Up the Junction. Don't Try Suicide. I was uncomfortable listening to this song.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
And I heard hints of What's New Pussycat, and it just I had 10-8 for Up the Junction. So what I'm seeing here is I was worried about Squeeze the first 3 tracks. I was like, wow, this is going to be a bloodbath. And then they got knocked down in round 5 by Crazy Little Thing Called Love. But those boys from London got up, Difford in a Cockney accent, said, what else you got? And came back with Hop, Skip, and Jump, Up the Junction, and let's see what's going on in round 8.
Yeah, let's see what's going on in round 8 indeed. Phil, keep it going.
Well, hey, before we go to round 8, I just wanted to mention this, too, about Up the Junction. When Difford and Tilbrook get a song right here, I mean, think about what, Difford shows up, and Tilbrook's going to write the music, and he delivers him these words. And he goes, Jesus Christ, there's 450 words in this song, or whatever, like he's still got to sort this out, and they don't always get there, but they get there. John, how does the musical part of the song, how does that guy get to that point with what he's given?
Well, you're right. I mean, when you are given this it's a cacophony, and a guy who can write his way around that is a brilliant songwriter because there's never a conflict. I mean, the thing that we appreciate about their songwriting can go into a lot of great detail about the storytelling and how the melodies, speak to the story and all of that stuff is great. And it is the genius part of it. But what's often overlooked is that when a songwriter who's doing the lyrics goes first, and I don't care which one of them went first and which one went second, they have to have a way to leave each other some space. And when you host a podcast that's got 2 hosts, you learn very quickly that you don't get to stomp all over each other because it's inconsiderate, because it derails ideas, and because it's weird on the ears. And I think that that's what we've found musically between these guys is that they were able to strike that real balance. Whether Tilbrook went first or Difford went first, I imagine they alternated, but they found that place where they could go, no, let me get out of your way, and you're going, and then, hey, let me hand the ball back to you and throw you up an alley-oop or something. And these are the things that musically that I think ring with us, whether we recognize them or not. I think that they really ring with us. What do you think? Would you agree, Phil?
I think there's for those 2 in particular, the amount of trust that they have to have in one another, where Difford says, okay, here's the lyrics, and then off goes Tilbrook for a week, and he comes back. Here you go. I've got it. Here's the demo. And it turns into a song. That partnership and the amount of trust that those 2 had for each other is what made them so successful, or as successful as they were. This particular song, I think, sat at number 2 on the UK singles chart for, I think 11 weeks or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So this is one of their top charting songs and is a reflection, I think, of that trust that their partnership had. And I did like the fact that Up the Junction didn't show up till that last little bit. It left you kind of suspenseful. That was my personal opinion.
You know, we should probably give some credit to John Wood because he's credited as not only producer but arranger. And when you have somebody come into the studio and they've got songs written and they're going, and you can contribute something to a team that allows the team to go, yeah, we'll try that. Yeah, that sounds better. And give you an arranger credit, you brought something to the equation. So I want to acknowledge that as well. Where are we? Are we at track
8?
Round 8, Sail Away, Sweet Sister versus Hard to Find, Slightly Drunk.
Let's just say that this was not, Sail Away Sister was, or is not, one of my favorite Queen songs. I found it, and I understand the whole idea of you got to give other guys in the band a shot, and May, you know, you might be a good songwriter, you might be a great, fantastic guitar player, but your vocals are just, when you have arguably the best lead singer, you know, in your band, it's really hard to shine, I think, in when you compare the two, when you know, and then have Freddie giving you some backup in the song. I didn't like May as a lead singer in this song. The harmonies were good, and then I found and I get what's going on. The end of the song, she's sailing away, but she sailed away just a little too slow for me. It just went on and on and on, kind of like this, you know, review of this song. Hard to Find / slightly drunk. I found hard to find, hard to listen to a little bit. The vocals were harsh. Jules, again, was able to shine on keyboards in this particular song. It was an interesting sound, but it just didn't resonate with me. But on the other hand, Slightly Drunk, I liked the high energy, the drums and the guitars. Just it gave me I felt like I was in the Irish pub with this song, and it made me feel good. And so I had this 10-9. I'm gonna not even say Hard to Find. I had this 10-9 Slightly Drunk over Sail Away, Sweet Sister.
Well, here's where I hate going. I've said this before, but here's where I hate going after you, Phil, because you reminded me of some things in the song that would have colored the way that I scored it. I scored it 10-9 Sail Away, Sweet Sister. But now that you mention it, your points are exactly right. I think where I scored it that way was the weakness of Hard to Find. I didn't like it. And Jules Holland does get some space there. By the way, Jules Holland is how I discovered Squeeze. I discovered Squeeze because Jules Holland was the co-host of Night Music, which was on Sunday nights on NBC, and it was my favorite. It was by far the best music show that has ever been on television. And maybe I'm wrong about that because I haven't seen all the Jules Holland shows that he's doing now, and those have been spectacular as well. But in this case, Brian May, who I'll go ahead and say I'm not terribly wild about, and certainly not as a singer, I just felt like the song aged better, so I went 10-9 Sail Away, Sweet Sister. What'd you do, Pete?
This is a round where I'm maybe over-appreciating Queen, but Hard to Find, let's just say this, Hard to Find was not a great song, and it kind of reminded me like, this should be on Bosom Buddies, but they picked My Life, which is a way better song by Billy Joel. That's what I want to say about Hard to Find. Again, not a song anybody's going to ask Squeeze to play, ever. So you're really talking Sail Away Sister versus Slightly Drunk. I don't get the concept of a sister that you never had writing her a song. I will say this openly now. Of the songwriters on this album, I don't think Brian May is in the top 3. So, and I have a ton of respect for what he does, but in this format, I'm with Phil. I don't think that he delivers enough to warrant not letting Freddie sing. If that's what it takes to keep the band together, great. If you're going to do that, I really want to change the pace. The Eagles do it right. U2 does it right. Where like if Edge is going to sing, he's doing, Numb. And it's a total change of pace in how they deliver it. With that said, I did give a little extra credit to Queen for being Queen. This for me was the hardest round to figure out what I really liked. It was a sloppy round. Neither band really stood out. And so I looked at the champ, and I definitely consider Queen to be the champion of the two. And I gave this round to the champ, 10-9 Queen.
Wow. There is something to be said for that strategy, though. You do have to dethrone the champ. We are at round 9, Coming Soon versus Goodbye Girl. You know, this was an awful round for me, and it was equally awful on both sides. I think that where Coming Soon was just not fun to listen to, it didn't give me a whole lot of inspiration for anything. Goodbye Girl, those sounds are so dated. That whole song is a salad of sounds that exist nowhere on anybody's keyboard of retro sounds. It was tough. I scored it a draw because it was equally terrible.
Wow. Equally terrible. So, yes, Goodbye Girl, the sound of that on this album may have been dated. However, there were 3 different versions, a different version released for the UK single, one for the American single, and one for the album. So the ones that were released as singles were different from the one on the album and had slightly different sounds. If you were to go see Squeeze, they would play this song, and it would not have that dated sound. So and granted, it's an album fight, not a how do they play today fight, but the lyrics in Goodbye Girl make the song. And Glenn Tilbrook, this is for him where he shows his vocal chops, and he has that unique sound that I don't know if I've heard anywhere else, or that I can compare him to anybody else that I've heard, even in today's music industry. Coming Soon, it was an interesting sound. Freddie delivered strong vocals as usual. As I listened to the song again, I could hear this being a Squeeze song, and it was interesting to me how my preconceptions, even though I know Squeeze and I know Queen, are that they are significantly different sounds. And multiple times through this album fight, I found myself saying, "This could have been Queen. This Squeeze song could have been a Queen song. This Queen song could have been a Squeeze song," like multiple times throughout this album fight. The tribal drums, very interesting. However, I had to give it to Goodbye Girl and its dated sound, 10-9.
Wow, I wish I would have known that about Goodbye Girl. I would love to have heard those different sounds. What'd you do, Pete?
Well, so I look at this pretty plainly, pretty simply. Coming Soon is nonsense. First off, it's ELO, Don't Bring Me Down. It sounds like that, and ELO's version is way better. So they just don't have enough left. Queen is done at this point for me. They're coming out and somehow they're still up. But for me, the fight, even though it's close, it's basically over because Queen has not given me anything to really chew on and show definitive excellence and separation. For me, the champ is beaten at this point. So this is a 10-9 round, only because, like you said, it's the Casio preset number 3 with the backbeat on Goodbye Girl. It's not fantastic. What is good about it, though, the lyrics are clever, and the way they put the song together, it works. And when they talk about these guys being the next Lennon and McCartney, it's because they can take a little bit of thing and turn it into something that actually kind of works. It's a song about being hung over after a one-night stand, and you're kind of looking around going, what the fuck? And then the lyric, sunlight on the lino, that forces you to get up, get out of your chair, and go figure out what the fuck that means. Are they saying sunlight over Milano? Are they saying sunlight on? It turns out they're saying sunlight on the... That right there takes this little extra song, and I know, John, you like these kind of things too, where you've got to go look up who the hell Mephistopheles is. What's sunlight on the lino mean? And that's really the difference. This is songcraft versus something that is... we're going to make a song that sounds like ELO. So whether it's a Squeeze song or a Queen song or an ELO song, it's not better than Goodbye Girl. And you're right, Phil. They still play Goodbye Girl, and that song has gotten better. There's something to work with here, whereas Coming Soon is just not there. For me, It's 10-9 Squeeze.
So, Phil, round 10 is Save Me versus Cool for Cats. What'd you do,
I'll
Phil?
tell you what I did. I had to listen to this 5 times. Because Save Me, it got me with the piano intro and the vocals. I love acoustic guitar. So when you have beautiful vocals with piano and acoustic, it grabbed me and told the story of this guy who was breaking up. Him and his wife were separating, and it was almost like he was telling his friend, this is terrible, and I need your help, whatever, save me. And then as the song progressed, he was getting, more passionate about it, and it was almost screaming, "Save me!" And then the guitars were screaming for him, and you could just feel it escalating to where he was getting, his world was caving in, and he was looking for help. That said, Squeeze, Cool for Cats, the Cockney accent, oh my God. Like the first time I ever heard this song, I go, why does that guy talk so funny? And the beat, any song that mentions Davy Crockett, I got to go, what? Why are they talking about Davy Crockett? And I got to figure out what the lyrics are around Davy Crockett. And just getting back to my original points around why I like Squeeze, this is why I like Squeeze. This song is fun for me, and it tells the story of a show. And I found this is kind of ironic, right? Cool for Cats was a show that showcased music or bands back in the UK. And ironically, Jools Holland leaves the band to go do numerous shows where they feature bands. I found that ironic when I found out, that's what Cool for Cats was. I thought they were just singing about cats and how cool cats were, but it's really about a show that showcased musical acts. After the fifth time of listening to this, because I went back and forth, 10-9 Queen, 10-9 Squeeze, and then I couldn't pick a winner. I had to go this round. The end of the round, they hugged each other and said, this is a great fight. And this round was even 10-10 for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. I listened to the big finish of Queen, and they are an arena band. So you expect them to have a great, big, enormous finish. And that's where they went. I don't know that they hit the ball all the way over the fence. Save Me, as big finishes go, was just okay for me. Cool for Cats, on the other hand, like you mentioned, Phil, it was what was cool about Britishness for me. I dug it. That's why I dug Squeeze. It's why I dig Guy Ritchie. And it's a song about a show that showcased music acts. So how could we go wrong? What's interesting to me is that I went into this album fight with the same kind of expectation. I thought it was also going to be a bloodbath. I thought there was no way that a band like Squeeze, as brilliant as they are, could go toe-to-toe with an arena band like Queen just because of their absolute hugeness. But they sure did. They did it on songwriting. They did it on cool factor. They did it on approachability. They did it on being the kind of guys who weren't standing way up on a stage with an enormous spotlight shined on them. They did it on being the kind of band you could see in the backyard. Yeah. And I love them, and I love them for that. And up through round 9, I had this fight a tie, and Cool for Cats pulled it out for me, 10-9, giving Squeeze the win. You are the anchor, Pete. What'd you do?
So right now, if we're looking at a possible split decision, let's start with Save Me. This is a hit for Queen for sure, but it's not one that has to be played when they play those arena dates. This is not one of the hits. It's Set Me Break Out, every 10 shows or whatever it is. But this is Freddie doing what he does best for the band. His voice always elevates, and he makes differences when he sings. Brian May is great in this song. He's great on the guitar. This is a great rock and roll song. It's a solid thing through and through, but I like to use Bergie's Edge. Sometimes you just don't nail it. And when I had it like you guys did. I had this thing even going into the last round, and I just didn't hear a fight-winning song come out of Queen. I saw them give a good effort, but then Cool for Cats comes out, and it is a motherfucker of a song. First off, is that a clavinet in there, John? That sound that they had in there?
Yeah.
Yep. You got a British band who, like you said, it's a little bit funky, and they break out a clavinet, but they choke it. They just a little bit of clavinet. I love that. You got the colloquialness of the thing. You've got this lyric, an arrow in his at. Love that lyric, man. An arrow in his at. Okay, and Davy Crockett is in there. Yeah, and so again, Difford goes off and gets drunk in a bar and comes back with this fucked up lyric, right? And he hands it to Tilbrook without a fucking worry. And Glenn goes, yeah, I can sing arrow in his at. That's not a problem. And deliver it and nail it. And this is when Bergie's like, I know exactly how hard to go, and I'm going to go fucking big, and I'm going to nail this thing. I have to mention Tilson's flammy drum fills, and I'm learning from John. But that on those fills, I love them passing the ball between him and Jules during the song breakdown. This song is fantastic. They can play it every night for the rest of their lives. When they're done and the new Squeeze comes out, they'll still play this song, and people are still going to love it. That bridge is great. This band is so deep. You know, you got Jules Holland just sitting there like, just give me a chance, you know?
Let me at him.
Yeah, let me at him. I agree with you on the drumming. I need more of Lavis. I definitely need more, and I don't have that much love for the Queen drumming. It's just he's making cool decisions, and he's never there until all of a sudden you're like, God damn, look at that choice he made there. For me, this is Queen out there at the end of the fight. The corner's looking at him. They're staggered. They got crushed earlier by Up the Junction, and they've got the towel in their hand, but they want to see if the kid can make it to the end of the fight. And he takes a knee right at the bell, and he gets standing aided as the bell sounds. The bell saves it from being just game over. But this was, for me, it ended up being decisive. And like you said, John, it was the lyrics. It was the number of tools you go to. Queen is a legendary arena band, and they are world class. And only in our fucked up, warpy album fight format is Squeeze even in the ball game. But you can't underestimate what these guys can do. And this is why Squeeze is underappreciated when you have all of these things. I mean, first off, how many bands sing with an accent and then that heavy of an accent and then pull off such clever choices? I loved it. This was great. And even though we had to mix in 2 extra songs, I think we did it in a way that was fair. And I will say, looking at the scorecard, everybody pretty much gave both bands about 5 rounds. I was a little harder on Queen. I gave it 6-4 in terms of rounds, but this was a very, very even fight. That songwriting for me was the difference.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. You know, the other thing to point out is that if we're going to bring up that the songwriting was the difference, we also made some choices based on the sounds of the album and how those sounds have aged. I mean, we talked about things being dated. I don't like Brian May's guitar tone. I don't like it. I've never liked it. That really, like, way deep in a cigar box tone is too... it's too buried for a Les Paul. I mean, you got a great guitar like a Les Paul, and then you go and over-effect it to make it sound that deep in the cigar box, and I just, I don't dig it. I also would like to say that you guys... I love how we sparred this out, because I've learned some things here about both of these records. So I salute you guys. This was a great fight and a great piece of commentary. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add one thing real quick, too. The best song on both these albums is Another One Bites the Dust. It's the one that's the legend that'll be played hundreds of years from now. But the worst sound from this album also came from Queen, that stupid synthesizer laser, that pew, pew kind of sound. It's just dumb. And I didn't bring it up in the analysis because there's a lot of experimental dumb data choices. But this is the difference, right? You have this legendary song and then these bullshit laser sounds and just bad synthesizer use. It was a fun fight, though. And really, just the fact that we're talking about these two bands going at it, making them relevant 40 years after they were, had these albums out, I will definitely stand in front of any member of either one of these bands and say, I love what they do. I always want to hear more Queen. I always want to hear more Squeeze. And even if I'm critical, it's only 40 years later in this goofy format where I would say, this is how I see this. So I don't hate Queen. I love Queen. I love Squeeze. And I love you guys for sitting here and hanging out with me and doing this with me.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. For our listeners, once again, listen to Phil's podcast. If you are in the retail business, it's called What's in Store, and we're excited about it because, I've been in the customer experience business one way or another for a long, long time, and Pete, as a spy, has been in the customer experience business as well for a long, long time. So we're curious to see what Phil's expertise brings to the world of podcasting, and eager to see what effect he has on the retail industry, which is definitely an industry that could use a shot in the arm of your expertise.
Well, thank you. And I did want to mention that I did score this as a draw. That last round could have decided one way or another, and I had it going 94-94. And I think part of my goal in bringing Squeeze to this fight was to introduce people to Squeeze. And hopefully, going through this album fight, there was some appreciation for the lyrics, the songwriting, the melodies that this band, this quote-unquote new wave band from the late 70s, early 80s could produce. And hopefully someone that had preconceptions of Squeeze and what that sound was come away from this fight having an appreciation for their talent and their music writing and go explore more Squeeze. Because we all know Queen, and we'll love Queen.
Yeah, that's a good choice, man.
If you haven't had enough Gilson Lavis, we're going to have him on the Break It Down show. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Oops.
So, anyway, great show, fellas. Thanks again. We'll see you both soon. Pete, I'll see you soon. Phil, I hope to see you soon, too.
Yep, sounds good.
Make sure you grab John at JohnLG69 on Twitter. That's where we have a lot of these album fight conversations. I am at Pete A. Turner. The Break It Down show is at Break It Down Show, and Phil is
at PJ Green on Twitter, and What's in Store is at What's in Store Pod.